Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Eleftheria. Thanks for joining today's webinar. We're really happy to have you here, and thanks for finding time to join us. I'll be your moderator for today. And this session is going to dive into the most common challenges that producers in aquaculture are facing. Most importantly, we're going to focus on feed waste and cost control, real-time decision making, and labor efficiency and planning. I wouldn't be there to do that only by myself. I'm joined by two excellent speakers. We have together Nir. It's his double role as aquaculture technology expert and as a customer success manager here at aquaManager, who is going to guide us through the most common and broader challenges that most of the sector is facing at the moment, and he's going to suggest successful strategies for farms that are using today. And our special guest, Benjamin Orishaba, a farm manager from MIG Fish Farm, who is going to demonstrate a real world story from his farm and how they address some of these issues and the outcomes that they have. Some housekeeping notes that are going to be really valuable for today's session. This session is being recorded, and I'm going to share the replay link with you afterwards. Sorry, I'm just letting some more people in. The cameras and the microphones will remain off in order to eliminate background noise, but I'm going to turn them back on in the end to have a nice picture all together, if you guys feel like it. If you'd like to ask a question, you can leave it in the Q&A chat on the right, and you can type it anytime during the session, and we're going to answer them on the last 15 minutes, which the Q&A session is going to start. If anyone wants to raise his hands, they should be wait by the end of the both presentations, and I'm going to turn on the mic if needed. If you experience any technical issues, feel free to message me directly. And I think we are ready to begin. Nir, the floor is yours.
Great. Wow. I'm super excited. Look, there are so many people here. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us in this first aquaManagers webinar. My name is Nir Tzohari. I am in this aquaculture industry for 27 years, something like this. It's a lot of time. I was in this industry from bottom up, and I did practically almost everything possibly in the industry, and ended as a fish farm manager both in Israel as well as in Uganda. Recently, after being also consultant in some things and some areas related to aquaManager and started some small startup, I also joined recently working with aquaManager as the customer success manager. Let me please share my screen and go to presenters mode, and we can start. Now, I cannot see anybody, so I will just talk, and I will hope you will find it very interesting. Sorry. We're going to talk about, as Eleftheria presented at the beginning, we're going to talk about redefining farm performances. As much as possible, we're gonna tackle the most common challenges that I thought modern aquaculture is facing. So main challenges I thought about, of course, the high feed costs, which everybody here feels it in one way or the other. Poor stock visibility, which means and I will talk about it a lot just in a minute. Just remember these header. We're talking about limited human resources, which we always face. And I will talk about the lack of real-time data predictability, which is also something that I think with the help of technology, we can suggest and help how to improve. At the end of the day, I want to suggest that the farm can scale operations without increasing costs and without increasing the teams that are involving in the farm operation. Sorry. Now, aquaculture in general is suffering from a unique problem that other industries do not suffer. The main reason here is that practically we don't see what we do. We come every day, we know how much labor we put in, we know how much feed we throw to the water, we know how much fuel and electricity and insurance and all the expenses. We don't really know what we did because we cannot see the product that we have. We cannot see the fish. We cannot, we don't know what happens in the water or under the surface of the water. This very unique problem that is really unique to the aquaculture industry is leading us to late and reactive decisions. We make our decisions most of the time based on hunches, habits, guesses, and less based on data. And my main goal here, and I will talk about it immediately, is to convince you, if you don't do it yet, to base your decisions more as data-driven decisions or data-driven, data-directed decisions. We have a habit-based, and as we talk about feeding, we most of the time, or too many times, doing habit-based feeding, which means if I come in the morning and I know that these fish are eating like this because I used to feed them like this, I will keep on doing it. And I won't change my habits based on what the fish need. It creates feed waste. It creates, of course, poor growth. And all of us know that feed is the largest outcome, the largest expense in our industry, which up to 60, 70, maybe even 80% of the total expense of the farm. Most of us are working without clear production plan. We have like a general plan. Yes, this year we want to harvest 500 ton, 200 ton, 1,000 ton, 20,000 ton. Too many times we fail to convert it into a real production plan. I need to stock exactly like this. I'm going to purchase feed in this and that iterations and that of this and that often during the year and during the month and during the week. And sometimes it affects us. It affects us by the operation, and we are going to operational inefficiencies. It affects us also by the cash flow, because we don't really know how to plan the cash flow. We find ourselves dealing with surprises. Lack of task tracking is also something connected to the planning and to lack of using of technology. And if we do not track, or if we don't plan our tasks, we find ourselves wasting time. We find ourselves making all our tasks, or not all, but part of our tasks, in an insufficient way and without coordinating. So it means that maybe if we need 10 people for a specific task, we would find 15 people going around there. Or else if we need 8 people to the other task, we find only 2 people reach there because we did not plan it properly. We also suffer from weak data systems. We are going to talk a lot about data today. Data collection, data analysis, data reporting is one of the most important things as long as it comes to agriculture, but even more when we talk about aquaculture, because of what I started with, because of the fact that we don't see what we have. We need to use data, we need to use analysis, we need to use all of these manners to better understand what we have under the water and to better understand what we have in our farm and how to plan it and how to predict everything. Now, I guess that all of the things I will say here, some of you are using. I suggest that, because what I come here is basically to suggest some techniques to improve. So my main suggestion is to listen and think, okay, this one I'm already doing perfect. And this one, wow, it's a good suggestion. Let's try to use also this method. Maybe it will help me to improve myself for the future. And gather everything. And, at the end of the day, you will find that a few improvements here and there will lead you to a much better success. Now, as I see it, when I come to manage a farm and to grow fish, one of the main goals that I put in front of my eyes and also try to work on it with the team is to understand the fish requirements. I want to understand their requirements without, of course, them speaking, because they don't know how to speak. They don't even make noises. But when I understand how they put signs to me, I will be able to optimize the feeding. I will be able, of course, to improve the performances of the farm. And it will help me to create smart decisions. And the decisions will be supported by a smart decision support system. As better as we use our data and as more efficiently we collect the data and analyze it, we can create a better decision support system that will help me to reach to better decisions for things or for activities that needed to happen now, so I can know what happens as it's happening at any given moment. And of course, it will improve the benefit for all the managers and all the stakeholders of the farm/company. And the things I'm saying again is true for small farmers. If you have 10 cages, 15 cages, and it's also true for very, very big operations. It's even more important. Let's talk about smart feeding a little bit. Smart feeding is basically, it's a key opportunity, because as we said at the beginning, and as probably all of you know, the feeding is 60 up to maybe even 80% of the total expenses of every farm, every fish farm that I know. Small improvement in the feeding, small improvement in the efficiency, small improvement in the FCR by percentage is a huge improvement in the margin. Design smart feeding cycles. And these smart feeding cycles must be designed based on performance data, which means I know I've checked and I've tested and I've experienced that this cage or that group of cages, they eat better in the afternoon. I won't push them to eat before that, because they would just lose feed. And this is just examples. I noticed that this specific species, even though all the literature says that the transfer between 3 and 4 millimeters should happen at 70 grams, no, I discovered that I have better performances if I move between 3 and 4 millimeter feeding at 90 grams. And this information comes from data that I analyzed. So I will stick to this feeding feeding regime. I won't just do what the literature says because they say so. Another thing, I will link feeders to specific cage groups. I will try to make sure that the feeders knows their cages, knows their fish, and I will teach them how to listen to the fish. And once they are linked to this cage group, and also they will be incentivized by the performances of these cage groups, believe me, they will feed the fish and they will treat the fish as good as possible. And I will touch this point even a little bit later on, because I think it's an important point to touch. Align feeding activities with real-time performance data. Always remember, again, it's somehow similar to the first topic I put here. Always remember that you need to measure what you do. Measure what you do. Don't just guess. Don't just say because they say so. Always measure what you do and base your decision on experimental and on collecting information. And last but not least, but this is a little bit more sophisticated, but it could save a lot of feeding. Use smart cameras, use smart feeding sensors if you can afford it at the first purchase. From experiments that we did in the field, we know that it saves. It could save like 10% of the feeding. It could improve your FCR tremendously. You don't know what happens under the water, and if you use smart feeding systems that can imply when the fish stopped eating, you will be surprised how much more efficient you can be with the feeding, and it works like a magic. Now, we want to enhance performances and we want to empower the staff. Track your fish performances continuously, which means perform samplings. Samplings you need to perform every particular exact time, which means every 2 weeks, every month. By the way, every 6 weeks, stop, not more than that. You know that the fish are growing. You rarely have a good estimation of exactly what the weight of the fish, and you know that as accurate as you are with the average weight of the fish and the biomass in the cage, the better you are with the feeding, the better you are with the end performances. So track the performances and be consistent with it. Be consistent. Every 2 weeks, so every 2 weeks, you reach to a cage and you take measurements. And every 2 weeks, or every month, you do your samplings and you make sure that you consistent with this information collection. Analyze the performances continuously, which means after you did the sampling, sampling is not just for fun. Sampling is to collect the data and analyze it. And then you can understand that one cage is performing very good, sometimes even too good. So you need to understand why is it too good? Maybe you missed some fish. Maybe you have some other stuff that affects it. And it's a very good opportunity to pay attention to this. And you will find the other cage that is not growing. And you need to go and find out why this cage is not growing. Don't be shy and touch every cage. After you do the sampling, touch base every cage. Try to find out what happens in this cage. Try to find out if it has a unique pattern. Try to find out, did it grow before? How did it grow before? Why did it stop? Why is it growing slower a little bit or faster a little bit? Try to understand what's going on. In other words, always try to know what the fish and the feed are doing in the water or under the water. Now, when we talk about employees, I really think that we need to train the team to listen to the fish. Now, the fish are not talking. Of course, the fish are not talking and they don't make any noises, but we need to listen to them. We need to know how We need to train the workers. We need to train the team how to listen to the fish. And you will find out, and again, maybe I say things that some of you or all of you are doing anyways, but my best workers were the guys who were feeding the fish, and I knew that they know what they're talking about when they are talking to the fish. So when these guys came to me and told me this cage number 3 has an issue and starts to develop something, he didn't always know to tell me what happens, but I knew that something happens with this cage, and I knew that I have to go there and try to find out what happens with this cage, because this guy is talking to the fish. Super important to have people like this in your team. Train them also to collect accurate data. If they are counting the dead fish every day, they need to count the dead fish every day. And they need to be as accurate as possible. If you see that they record 50 dead fish every day, something is wrong. Something is too round numbers. So it doesn't make any sense because it's biology and it never behaves as accurate as it is. And empower the employees to observe, to record, to respond to the fish behavior. Once they do it, so they will understand how powerful it is to the performances of the farm. And of course, if you can incentivize the staff for this, again, it will create miracles. If you can incentivize them for measurable improvements, such as this employee is responsible for group A of the cages, and you can compare this growth with group B of the cages and with group C of the cages, it is measurable. You can measure mortality or survival rates, you can measure growth rate, you can measure FCR. Try to incentivize them. Try to give them some prize for good performances. They would like to bring good performances and they would like to be better than their friends. And it's a good competition. I mean, of course, they don't have to kill the other friend for they kill the other cages, but good competition. Good competition is good in that case. Early detection and alerts are also super important. And for that, again, we need to have our detecting system. We need to have our best detecting system available. We need to try and use analysis of all the signs we are collecting. And we need to monitor the behavior of the fish. And of course, also the changes in the environment to create early warnings, which means we see now that the temperature started to drop. We know that something is going to happen. We see that it drops faster than last year. This is also a sign that we need to consider. Maybe something more dramatic will happen. We see that the fish in this cage are eating less. Maybe we are missing fish. Maybe these fish are developing some disease. We need to be alert. Maybe the net is not good. Maybe you have holes in the net. Maybe the net is clogged. Maybe, I don't know. Many options, but every farmer here needs to understand what he has in the water. And based on that and on the behavior of the fish and the environmental changes, create the early warnings. Now, it is very hard to do it only with the finger in the water. So what we do is using systems. So we're going to use smartphones to register data on real time. Real time is important because sometimes data registration in real time will lead for quicker decisions by the manager. We will use cameras, smart cameras, stupid cameras, to understand what happens at the farm, because me as a manager, I can't be every place all the time. But if I have cameras that can help me to identify fish behavior, bad movements of the workers, extreme changes in the water color or anything like this, it will help me again to reach to better decisions. Sensors before the software. I will use sensors. I will use sensors to identify the water parameters. I will use sensor to tell me if there is a change in the water temperature, the oxygen, or everything I can measure and is good or related to my environment. Of course, a fish farm in Lake Victoria in Uganda need to measure I don't know, parameters X, Y, Z, but a fish farm in the Red Sea in Saudi Arabia will measure other things with more or less intensity. And of course, salmon farm in the cold water of Norway will measure totally different things. It depends. But at the end of the day, all of us fish growers, we want to know what happens in the water. And since it's 2025 today, we have the tools for this, and it's less expensive that we used to think. I think it's something that worth the thinking of investing it. And at the end of the day, all of this information is better to gather in a software, dedicated software, which will help you to analyze and create your prediction and create your better understanding of what happens under the water, what happens with your biomass, with your stock, and basically what happens with all the money you've invested in putting this stock in the water and grow them to the current stage. The automation of the system will help you to reach better decisions. It's a decision support system at the end of the day. And a smart decision support system is what we are talking about here. Invest in automation tools and streamline the operation. Implement task management, and it will help you with the daily workflow, to structure the daily workflow. Build a robust reporting and analytics for actionable insights. It will help you. It will help you to understand what's going on. And I think the most important sentence here from this slide, and I like to talk about it a lot: shift from gut feeling decisions to data-driven strategies. This is as a bottom line of all what I spoke about in the past 20-something minutes. I think it's the most important thing that you can take and that you can take forward. So I will end up with this, and Eleftheria, I will pass it back to you.
Great. Thank you, Nir, for sharing this information to us. I think it's really helpful to know the background and what are the current trends. Now, I think it's time to welcome Benjamin. Hi, Benjamin. Thanks again for joining for today's session.
Hi, Eleftheria. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nir, for the nice presentation. It really reflects with what I'm going to share about my experience as a farm manager, as someone who is really on ground and really practicing fish farming.
Can you please tell us some information about your farm? Where are you based, and what species do you grow?
Okay, first things first, like the way you said, I'm Benjamin Orishaba. From Uganda, I work with MIG Fish Farm. MIG Fish Farm is located on the shores of Lake Victoria in Mayuge district in Uganda, east of Africa. We are basically producing Nir tilapia, also called as Oreochromis niloticus, and we are a vertically integrated business where we cover up all the value chains. That is hatchery, we do grow out, we have a feed production system, we do distribution, and also we run some fish shops. Actually, we have 4 fish shops around Jinja where we supply fresh fish every morning. We employ around 150 people in our farm, and our annual production is at 1,500 metric tons for now.
Can you please give us a sense of your day-to-day and the scales of operations, and what is your role about?
Okay. Actually, my day it's quite a funny day. I usually start it very early, around 6, where I have to check on the WhatsApp, see the updates around the farm. I need to check the security reports, see how was the night, if we are safe. I have to check into the production groups to see how is the water quality. Usually, how did the night go with the water quality? How is it? Are we good to go? Are we good to start all the activities? So after seeing all this, seeing the daily harvest reports, the harvest requirements, yeah, then I put on my gumboots and I head to the farm. So when I reach the farm, the first thing is check around, see what is taking place. And usually I have to check on the activities because we have a weekly plan. We know what activity is supposed to be done on each day. So I have to check and see if things are moving according to the plan. I have to talk to the supervisors to see if things are moving well. Then I head back to office. I attend to inquiries, check the reports, make some analysis. Says where things are not moving well, I have to call for meetings. We sit in and we see how really we can improve things. So basically, that's how my day ends until evening.
Benjamin, I couldn't not to notice that you started with talking about technology without even thinking about it, I think, because you said that I start my day with checking up the WhatsApp, what happened before. So this is, and guys, I don't know if you notice it, but this is straight use in technology. We've created the WhatsApp, we've created the groups, and boom, Benjamin here is using a high-end technology. So can you tell us a little bit, Benjamin, before implementing new tools, can you tell us what you remember were the biggest challenges you faced at the farm operation?
Okay, thank you, Nir, for this nice question. What I would say is when I reflect in 2023, when we are really scaling up, we are increasing our production. So here we moved to 120 cages. It really came up with a lot of requirements because I remember our daily feeding had to increase, our biomass on the lake had to increase, and all this came with many challenges. These were running from production to operational and also human resource. To start with production, I remember we had the hatchery, but our hatchery was really not well moving on. It could not really sufficiently support us. So we are outsourcing some of the fingerlings from outside. And we reached a point where you could find they are not able to supply us what we need. And this really made our production planning stagnant. We had gaps in between. And also you could find the fingerlings they're also supplying you really not accurately to what you really ordered. You could find the numbers are really not matching to what you really expected. So all these were really production challenges that we really faced during our scaling up process. And when it comes to operational, I remember as we are really growing big, the operation started becoming sophisticated. Our data really grown up. We are using Excel sheets, I remember by that time, and some funny application. And all this was really, really kind of hectic, because I remember we never had a good feeding model. It was really hard to control our feeding. We were feeding large quantities, but not all these quantities that we were feeding were being eaten by fish. We had too much feed wastage. I remember our FCR was around 1.5, and if you're a fish farmer, and if I talk about an FCR of 1.5, you really know what I'm talking about. So all this contributed to the challenges. I remember it was really hard to do traceability reports. For example, I remember you could harvest a cage, you want to trace it from the stocking until the end, how much it has eaten, where did it come from. Really, you need to know the information in between it, but it was really very hard to get all this information with the Excel sheets and the application that we're using by that time. And when it comes to the human resource, because I remember we never had a well-developed human resource. You could find someone who is working in the hatchery, is the same person in the afternoon who is going to the lake to feed on grow out. So this person comes from nursery where the fish are really eating in small quantities and their appetite is really not strong like on grow out. And when he reaches on grow out, you find he's not really feeding to satisfy the fish. So all this costed us, where we could find we have undergrowth, the fish are not really growing very well. And it was really a mixture of things until when we looked back and we thought, no, something needs to change. If we need to do the real scaling up, we need to change the protocols and how things are really moving around.
Okay, that very, very comprehensive answer. Thank you, Benjamin. Can you tell us a little bit, like, take this one step forward and try to describe what changed related to structured planning, related to feeding, related to labor. Can you put it in details? How do you think that technology changed, or using of technology and smart approach changed the performances of the topics that you've just touched here?
Okay, thanks, Nir. As like I said, it was really a mixture and a mess around with our scaling process that was taking place. So we had to think around and we had to change things around. And first of all, the first thing we had to do, it was something to do with the human resource. We had to design and have a good human resource around, and we had to create departments around. If someone is feeding in the hatchery, is basically feeding in the hatchery. We had nursery team, we had grow out team, we had harvesting team. So we really divided the teams into departments, like be in one place, master it, and know how it can be improved and how you can really be responsible of what you're doing. I must say this really helped a lot, because when we came up with a team of feeders, they really learned how to feed the fish when the fish needs to eat and how much to feed and when the fish are really not fine. And later on, we also had to acquire some management software, and this helped us in having good feeding models. And it came up with also mobile modules where the feed supervisors, at the end of the day, they could be able to enter in the data so that it comes into the system. So from here, we managed to reduce on the time the day someone has this, and together with the good feeding practices and the human resource that we channeled, we saw a very huge improvement in the feeding. For example, I already told you that our FCR was 1.5, but after all this rearrangement, our FCR was 1.2. And if you're a feed farmer, if I talk about 1.2, I think you really know what it means when it comes to feed cost saving and making profits in your fish farm. So later on, when we did this, we also had to, we installed a water quality management system. This was really permanent in the water. It could give us real-time information about the dissolved oxygen in the lake, about the temperatures, and this helped us to identify if the conditions are really suitable to feed our fish or to do any movements around. We even it had also alerts, like in case if the DO or the dissolved oxygen is really down, it could send an alert and we could know that something is really right, and we talk to the fish farmers. Because I remember even last year, MIG Fish Farm, we helped to send a notice to some of the fish farmers in Uganda that something was going to be wrong in the water quality, and it helped most of the fish farmers. And the few that never listened, they had some mortalities. So really this saved a lot, and it helped us in improving around. Then also we had to invest in our hatchery. Like I told you, we were outsourcing the fingerlings. So we invested in our hatchery to make it operational. Because like I told you, we were outsourcing the fingerlings, and you could find at some point they're not able to raise enough to supply us. All this affected our production planning. So we had to invest in our hatchery. We were producing our own fingerlings, and trust me, this really saved a lot from the expenses that we were spending on buying the fingerlings. We also had to invest in a fish counting machine, because like the way I told you, we were buying fingerlings, but they were not giving us the real numbers, and we could find our survival is really down. We could check around, our nets are okay, they don't have any damages, our fish are not escaping, but we could not really see where the problem is until when we invested in the fish counting machine, which could help us in stocking the fingerlings on the nursery, giving us accurate data. And with all this improvement, it helped us in improving our fish survival around the farm.
Well, amazing, amazing. And it also gives us a good idea of real-time warning. I mean, you just touched a really interesting point here related to real-time warnings that help you actually to save a lot of fish from dying, because you understand what happens under the water, exactly as we spoke before. Benjamin, I have another question. Can you share something related to human resource improvement, and how can you relate it to smart use of technology?
Okay, Nir, like I already informed you, when we acquired a management system, we moved away from the Excel sheets, using a lot of Excels. And here we made it in a way that we had mobile applications where even someone down, we decentralized the system, that even the field supervisor, after the end of the work, he's able to put in the information. So this system helped us to reduce on the time wastage that someone could take at the end of the day to put in the data, and it was done by many people, and we reduced on the time they could waste on sitting down and putting in the data. So really this system and the technological tools of management, they helped us to reduce on time wastage. The time that people would waste on the computers entering in the data, it was now channeled to something else in analyzing and seeing where the gaps are. So I would say this technology really saved a lot in human resource and time wastage.
Amazing, amazing. I have one last question from my end. Try to point out how it helped you, how the technology helped you to do good planning, to understand the inventory accuracy, the traceability. If you can a little bit touch this point.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nir. So, like I told you, we were really struggling with some of the things as we were really planning to scale up. We never knew the accurate numbers of fish we are stocking in the lake. But when we came up with the fish counter, it was really able to give us the real accurate numbers we are stocking in the cages. And at the end, after counting, we could really know how much we stock, the real number, and how much we harvested, and we know what is the gap that is missing. So with all this technology, then also we had to use a simple technology of fish grading, where during the grow out stage, we could really grade our fish, and we had two channels of where we could pass the small fish and the medium fish, and all this helped us to get the accurate numbers of fish that we really stock in our cages. And with these accurate numbers and also the use of the management system, it could give us clear predictions in the future, and we could really estimate what are our harvests in 4 months to come, in 3 months to come, and we could have a clear biomass estimate, because I've seen near some fish farms, I won't mention the names, they're also still struggling with accuracy when it comes to their numbers. You find the customer comes, they promise to give them like 5 tons of fish, but at the end of the day, you find they have 2 tons of fish in the cage, and this is really stressing. And when you've already planned your cash flow and your operational expenses, really it's something that hits you down.
True. Thank you very much, Eleftheria. I'll throw it back to you.
I think it's time to answer some questions from our wonderful audience because they've been asking quite some things. I'll start with a question that's from Dimitra. If someone's still relying on manual reporting and paper-based planning, what's the first step toward change? I think this one can be answered by both of you guys.
Yeah, Benjamin, go ahead.
Okay, I would categorize this farmer as a small-scale fish farmer. And it has a process. We have small-scale fish farmers, medium-scale fish farmers, and commercial fish farmers. So what I would advise someone like this is you need to first see on what is your production and what is your future plan. How do you plan to scale up? And this can give you the answers of when to know when to change from the manual using of the papers until when you're going to using the technology. So for example, if someone is operating a medium-scale fish farm, I assume the data is quite much to deal with and the operations are really high. So I would advise someone like this to move slowly by slowly, step by step, not just as a boom, the process and you're going changing everything, you will mess up. So I advise someone like this to start introducing some of the small technologies, because as you're increasing, also it becomes quite hard to control some of the activities. But with the help of the technology, it helps you to have a clear view, maybe as a CEO, as a manager, of how things are moving around and how to identify the gaps and how to solve some of the challenges. So I would advise, as a small fish farmer, identify and know how is your scaling process and start monitoring your stock and your data. As you feel like it's becoming a bit more complex and it's beyond your control, it's better to start adopting the technology.
I would add on this only one line. I think that the faster you move the technology, the better for you. There are products that are good for any size and any type of grower, and it's usually easy to use, easy to approach, and really, I think that the sooner you go towards technology, the better performances you have, no matter what size you're operating.
Great. I'll move to the next question from Luis. So, with regards to the water quality management system, were you able to develop trends leading up to the reduced dissolved oxygen that could assist with forecasting in the future, weather, etc.?
Yeah, I'll take the answer here. Yes, I really think that once you build this system in a smart way, you can really predict trends. You can really predict trends because you can identify the layers and you can identify where the layers are mixing. And if you build it in a smart way and you get good consultancy plus your clear mind and understand of the area, you can not accurately, but you can really predict what will happen in the next day or two with the oxygen profile, which is, as you probably all of you know, it's one of the most urgent issues that we are dealing with on our day-to-day activities at the farm.
Yeah.
Another question that just came in is from Valentine. So the narrative has always been that fish feed takes up to about 70% of the whole production cost. It's also true that protein content is what determines the price of the fish feed. What are practical methodologies of reducing this fish feed prices down? What's our take on cottage feeds?
Okay, look, it's a complicated question, but I will try to simplify it. Of course, the higher quality the feed is, the more expensive it is. But I put in parentheses here. You need to adjust the feed to the fish requirements. So there are basic requirements of the fish, and there are algorithms and tools, by the way, some of them developed by us, that can help you with modeling the farm. It is super important to work based on models, as accurate as possible. You start from scratch, you start from the commercial models, the commercial feeding growth models, commercial feeding FCR models that the commercial companies are sending out to the market. But using collecting the data, using smart systems, using good analysis will help you to build more accurate models. And when you build more accurate models, you will reduce the cost of the feed, because you will feed the right quantities. You will use the exact feed for your fish, which means tilapia don't have anything to do with expensive feed that goes for sea bream, sea bass. Okay, and if you take this feed and feed it to the tilapia, you will have no better profit. So you need to find the right feed to the right fish, and you need to use smart models and adjust the models. And after this and that time, readjust the model and rebuild it, because the feeding protocol improved, because the feed is improving, because the genetic selection is better, and because your generations are better, and because you've learned so many things for the past 2 years, so you can improve yourself. And then, of course, the models can improve, so you can feed a little bit less, you can feed more accurately, and you will reach to better results. And at the end of the day, of course, the results are how much money you left in your pocket.
Thanks, Nir. I'm going to read the next question, which is going to be the last one, and it's targeted to Benjamin. We're going to reply to all of your questions after the webinar and in a form that we're going to share with you. So Benjamin, how do you ensure that fish are not stressed while you grade them?
Okay, it's a nice question. And first of all, grading, this is a process of handling the fish. And as a fish farmer, handling fish, this is the stressful process, and you need to know how to do it clearly to make sure that the fish are okay. So first of all, before even starting this process, we first train and talk to our team that are going to do this activity about the cons and pros about this activity. How to start it, what are the standard operating procedures during the handling of a fish. For example, during the grading, in our process, we have to make sure that before even touching the fish are starved like the day before. Like there is no feeding when there is grading of the fish, because even the feeding would increase on the stress. Then another thing, we have to make sure that we have the right equipment to use when we are going to grading. So for example, in our case, we use oxygen during the process. We have to make sure that the oxygen cylinders are there. There is water. The oxygen is really at the optimum that the fish requires, around 3 to 5 milligrams per liter. We have to make sure that there is some anesthesia. We use anesthetizing equipment to make sure that the fish are a bit sleepy. They can't feel or the handling process when they're being touched. So we have to make sure that everything that is needed is around and it's there before even starting the process. We have to have a checklist to check whatever that is there and make sure that everything is in the range that is required before even starting to handle the fish. Then, before making sure that everything is in place, the team are well trained on how to handle the fish. We'll make sure that the seining is really gentle, the scooping of the fish is really gentle, and the sorting and the grading is quite fast to reduce the time the fish are remaining outside. And all this process, as it is being done, the fish are free in water. They spend less seconds outside the water because this is their environment, it's where they live. So we make sure that almost 90% of their time they are in water. Just this time they are not in water. So with that process, we manage to achieve higher survivals because usually after all this process, we usually experience very few mortalities. I would say if we are handling around 50,000 fish, you could experience like around 10 pieces of mortalities because we've mastered the activity, we've mastered how it's done, and the team is well trained, and we have the standard operating procedures in place, which everyone knows that he has to execute.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Yes, go ahead, Eleftheria. It's yours.
No, I was just thanking Ben. The floor is yours, Nir.
Okay, so what could we do next? I think that if you would take the heading here, small changes, big operational wins, it is practically summarizing most of what we spoke about today. So first, I would like to thank Benjamin a lot because really, Benjamin, you brought up some very interesting stories here from real life activities, and very teaching and very illuminating for all of us, I think. Now, as I said at the beginning, map your current processes. And at the beginning, I said, think between all what we said here, think what you're already doing. Now, try to think where are your blind spots. And with these blind spots, try to put flashlight on these blind spots. It will help you a lot. Try to identify high impact areas, feed planning, task logging, everything. All that we spoke here will help you to identify the high impact areas, and it will take you 1 or 2 or 3 steps upwards. The good question here, when can I move, or when is it good to move from paperwork to digitalization? As fast as possible, but it's exactly how you track your blind spot and how you can identify high impact area. Okay, talk to your team. Try to discuss with the team what is working, what is frustrating, how to incentivize them, how to make them do better, and how is it best approach to train them do better, to train them listen to the fish, to train them to hear the fish, train them to work together and with the fish. And at the end of the day, I would also like to say, reach out to us. Reach out to us. We can benchmark your current practices. We can try or help you to identify weak points, good points, high impact areas. We can help you to take the next step forward. And I'm talking about every size of a farm here. We are here. This is what we do. We are the address for the next step of making the next leap for better performing. So thank you all very, very much. And again, thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Eleftheria, for hosting all of these event. And I will stop the sharing now.
Just to remind to everyone that we're going to send out the recording after the end of the webinar. And also we prepared a short form for those interested in a free operational audit. And it's a great opportunity to look at how the ideas we discussed today could apply to your own farm. Thanks, Nir. Thanks, Benjamin. It was really productive and insightful. And of course, thank you all for attending and for sharing your questions to us. See you for the second part, which is going to take place in this autumn.
Thank you, Eleftheria. Thank you, Nir.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.